I think one of my favourite sales presentations was for a company called Kleinol. That's hair products and cosmetic products. And for the first time, they were holding the conference in an airport hotel, Heathrow. They had built a few hotels, but they were so noisy because of the planes taking off and landing that they couldn't hold conferences there until this particular hotel was made soundproof, or more or less soundproof. So I thought I would have a little gag. I started talking, and you heard a jet going overhead, and it got louder and louder, got right over the room, and then faded in the background. And I was talking all the time, and as soon as it got louder, you couldn't hear what I was saying. And at the end, when they could hear me again, I said, and that's what the evening's all about. By that time, of course, they realized it must be a gag because I'd been talking gibberish. Well, I'll tell you how I did that. I was aware that everybody was thinking, how can we have a conference at an airport hotel? So I placed 2 speakers near the stage, 2 speakers halfway down the hall, and 2 speakers at the end of the hall. Then we had tape recording of a jet going overhead, and my sound man just turned up the volume louder and louder, and you actually got the impression that you heard it coming from that side and going over the room into the distance. Very convincing. And I started talking normally, and once it was loud enough, I was just saying, and once they had gone, I said, and that's what the evening's all about. And of course I realized it was a gag because I hadn't heard a word I said. But let me come back to the conference. My job was to sell the hair product, which was a hair dye, which was easily applied and quickly applied. Now all hair products take about 4 to 5 hours to dye hair, but the point was to sell the idea that it's quicker and easier to apply than other products. So this is the presentation that I devised. First of all, I had a sort of old-fashioned pharmacist, a chemist, mixing up all kinds of things, legs of frogs and eyes of snakes and hair of spider and so on. Had little cubicles where he took these things out and he turned them into a mixture with an old pestle and mortar. Then an ugly woman came in with a hood over her head and a cloak and bent over and asked him to make her beautiful. And she drank this potion and she took the hood off and she was a beautiful, glamorous girl. And that girl, a brunette, was going to be my assistant. It was a playlet and nobody took it seriously, of course. It was just a way to introduce the subject and also to get my assistant on. And then I displayed a wheel, which was actually a spice rack, with lots of little bottles screwed to it all the way around, and it could spin around on a spindle. And each bottle had a different coloured liquid in it, from virtually white to slightly tinged yellow, deeper yellow, very deep yellow, light green, darker green, deep green, bright green, then into blues and mauves and violets and darker liquids and oranges and reds, and then back to dark blue and black. And the whole wheel was very colourful. To emphasize it, I actually put a spotlight behind it. And when you spun it, the spotlight reflected the light all over the room, and in the centre was a spindle that would spin the other way. And now I have to tell you that if you do put a spotlight behind these bottles, you would get a certain amount of colourful light, but not as much as I got, because I actually used 2 disco machines in the room, so that when we spun the wheel, there was coloured lights going all over the room. And the wheel would eventually slow down and stop, and the spindle going the other way would also slow down and stop, and the pointer would point to one of the colours. And I had committed myself by saying, we will now demonstrate the new colouring liquid on my assistant. You will get to choose the colour, so please come forward. Somebody came up and spun the wheel and the spindle the other way, and it pointed, when it came to rest, to a very bright blue, what I call an electric blue. And the girl said, "Oh, I'm not having that." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but you're under contract." But she absolutely refused, saying, "I can't possibly wear that colour. I can't walk around like that." She was a very pretty brunette, and you could understand it. But I said, "Seriously, you're under contract, so please sit down and let's go through with it." So reluctantly she sat down. I put a towel around her. Then we had a hair dryer, you know, the hood that you normally have at a hairdresser. Put that over her head, and the volunteer from the audience unscrewed the bottle that the pointer was pointing to, and I gave him a funnel. There was a little flap in the top of the hood, which he opened, put the funnel there, and poured the liquid in. You could see it actually pouring in. And then I asked him to stand back, and I said, "Are you ready?" And the girl sort of shrugged. She wasn't very happy about it. And I pressed a button, and the machine went boop, and she vibrated like this for a few seconds. I took the hood off, and lo and behold, her hair had been dyed electric blue, a really bright coloured blue. It's very attractive, but rather unusual. I took a piece of cotton wool and just wiped it there, which was still damp, and I showed the colour. And I said, "Actually, it looked very attractive," and she sort of gave in and stood up, and the audience applauded. They weren't sure whether to applaud what they just witnessed or whether it was a genuine product. Anyway, we went on with the presentation, and the girl helped me with her blue hair in and out, as she had done before, and then it got to the end of the production where we had a question-answer session. And I was trying to answer the technical questions and trying to explain about the product genuinely, when a voice from the back of the hall suddenly said, "How did you do that with the girl?" And I said, "Well, that's a trade secret. That was just to let you know that the hair coloring product we're selling today is easily applied and quickly applied, and I think I proved the point." And the boy said, "Yeah, but I bet you couldn't do it again." I said, "Pardon?" He said, "I bet you couldn't do it again." And I said, "Oh, please don't challenge me. I really don't like being challenged." He said, "Well, I thought so," and he was being, he was mocking me, and I pretended to get a little bit annoyed, and I said, "Well, why don't you come up and test it yourself?" And he wouldn't, so we asked for another volunteer to come up. I said, "Well, you spin the spindle this time and the wheel," which he did. And this time it came to stop on a very bright red, it's a rusty, bright red. And the girl again obviously said, "No, this is too much, I can't do that." I said, "Again, I insist you're under contract anyway." She sat down, we went through the same procedure. I put the towel around her, he unscrewed the bottle, poured the red liquid in through the funnel. I pressed the button, she shimmered and shivered, and we took the hood off, and there we are. She was dyed this bright coloured red. What I forgot to tell you is that just after I dyed her hair blue, we had a coffee break, and she actually went around the audience giving out biscuits and talking to people, and these professional hairdressers, they were all professionals, were looking at her hair and realized it was not a wig, it was real hair, and that really puzzled them. And once again, once I had dyed the hair red, again she mixed with the audience and they could see it was real hair. Well, right at the end of the presentation, the serious part of the presentation, we had another question and answer session, and this time people asked me again how it was done, and I said, "Well, you know, I don't claim any sort of supernatural powers, therefore it must be a logical explanation. Why don't you think about it?" And they came up with all kinds of ideas which were impractical, until somebody said, "Well, at one time we thought maybe you were using twins." and that would explain it, but we can't see how because the girl was in full view all the time. I said, you're not so bad. You actually put your finger on the answer, because I did use twins. And people, of course, are still very puzzled because how could I have used twins when they could see the girl in full view all the time? I said, I'm now going to introduce you to the twins and you'll see for yourself. So girls, would you come in, please? And the two identical girls came from either side, one with blue hair, one with red hair. The audience applauded and then stopped saying, yes, but how? I said, well, ladies and gentlemen, on top of using twins, we have found a new kind of wig, and it's so superior and looks so natural. You professionals believed that was real hair. No, it was a wig. So girls, will you please take the wigs off and show the audience what you really look like? And the girls looked at me horrified, saying, I thought this was a secret. And I said, no, go ahead, take the wigs off. And they took their wigs off. And the blue-headed girl was red, and the red-headed girl was blue. And they mixed with the audience, and it was their real hair. Well, there's a strange ending to the story. It's now 50 years on, and those two lovely young ladies are now slightly older, running a chocolate shop in Cockfosters in Hertfordshire, very close to us, and we're still in touch. Pretty amazing, isn't it?